Right, indeed. Good morning, Freetown. Good morning, Sierra Leone. Hearty welcome to Wake Up Sierra Leone and the Africa Young Voices television. You're also hearing us on radio this morning on the 101.7 frequency modulation. My name is Victor Jones.
And I am Ian Sweden. As always, whether you're watching or listening to us this morning from the provinces or someplace in the capital city, Freetown, on channel 33, or even if you're watching us on DSTV channel 399 from across Africa or where world, we say a pleasant good morning to you and welcome.
Surely, you can also watch us online from around the world on this joyous day. It's the 8th day of July, the year 2026.
We're broadcasting live from the top of Tower Hill in the heart of the city, Freetown. You can send us your comment through our socials on AYV News Facebook page on the stories that we cover.
And coming up in this midweek edition, Sierra Leone set to host the 69th edition of the ECOWAS Mid-Summit. We will discuss security matters, including the official reopening of the Enga border crossing after more than a year closure, among other security issues.
We'll also be discussing the implementation of the Persons with Disability Act of 2011, talking about anti-discrimination, free education, medical services, employment protection and development fund, among other things, including the chairman of National Commission for Persons with Disability, Guaima Abdullahi Sharif's 1 year in office.
And as the private sector remains central to Sierra Leone's economic recovery, our business reporter, Marama Tomi, will report the importance of the International Day of Cooperatives, highlighting how locally owned enterprises and cooperatives strengthen communities, create jobs and drive inclusive growth in Sierra Leone.
But before we delve into all of what's coming up in the program today, we would go for a quick word from our sponsor, Rokel Commercial Bank, which will be followed by other advertisers. Meanwhile, grab yourselves a cup of tea or coffee and join us this morning for this conversation. Stay with us.
More and more people are using Rokel SIM Copper Plus in their everyday lives. Did you hear that? She just transferred money for her daughter's school fees. And this man just paid for some products. Ah, Mr. Abu, are you sending money to your wife again?
Yes, like Rokel SIM Copper.
Ah.
Yes, like having money in my pocket.
Ah, excellent.
Thank you.
He just bought some eggs. The world is digital, so keep up with the times. Have you got a payment to make? If so, just download Rokel SIM Copper Plus now. You can download the Rokel SIM Copper Plus app from Apple iStore and iPad or Google Play Store for Android users. You see, it's fast, safe and reliable.
Sorry, car, go see some business partners.
You didn't give me money, Michael. Can if I can say you remember this car people in not to Indy?
Today you pay me money. I don't send it for let you help me send money in Ghana. 2 weeks now you not send me money and then you not give me back me money. Today, give me money.
You know ever sabi goodness in life. I send back your money, but trust me, today na the very last day I ever send money for now.
I don't need your help because I don't know so with Afri money. I dey able send money. Now Baku Africa countries them.
With Afri money, we able send money to over 10 African countries, whether it's Ghana, Gambia, Liberia, or Kenya. If me party we know this, we not follow the party grammar right now.
Okay, una go regret. I mean now, una go regret.
The best part right now, Michael, with Afri money, you dey able send money even if you not use app, even if you know the online directly. All you need for do is just a dial *161#. Pam, your money don't go. So I don't need the help again. Thief man.
Thank you.
Send money to over 10 African countries instantly with Afri Money. No stress, no excuses. Just dial *161*1*6# now. Afri Money, quick and easy.
once again. It's been a very crazy day. The joyous feeling in the air when rain falls on a sunny day.
Happy, yeah. Let the stars, let the roll.
Enjoy life's little pleasures with Maltina. Maltina. Share happiness.
As mama, I always want waiting best for me picking them, especially when it comes up waiting them for eat and drink. Now this make I always they choose Sarah juice because they make them from with local foods them and nutritious and it gets less sugar than the other drinks them. Not to me say so.
We lab test show say Sarah juice gets 50% less sugar than the other drinks them na the market.
Because we mama they know waiting best for we picking them, now you make we always they choose Sarah juice. Sarah juice is nutritious, it's healthy and it's sweet. Sarah juice, not the taste of Salome.
Fellow Sierra Leoneans, on 8th August 2024, Statutory Instrument Number 8 of 2024 regarding the conduct of nationwide population and housing census was successfully laid in Parliament. On 29th August 2024, this statutory instrument became effective following 21 days from its laying. Therefore, in line with the decennial census calendar, I am pleased to announce that my government will conduct a nationwide population and housing census.
It's 2026, we dey get with census. Make all man tell him fambulem. Responsibility for bring development. Make all man tell him fambulem. From the east to the west, blah blah blah. From the north to the south, no matter how you dare or you try, blah 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 blah. Motoka, mama or papa, blah blah blah. One pikin or grandpa, blah blah blah. Auntie or uncle, blah 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 blah. Motibe oh, let it come to you. One people, one nation. Now we know back up bills alone. May they come to you. No person say you not care. May they come to you. May they come to you.
It's Hama Papa. Make we come together now. Brother, sister. Nothing say you no matter, no. No left behind, no. This now you 10 for. Can join the census. Salon now we on.
Okay, well, show me your name. Show me your address. For make you go join now the plan. The census go make you get the access. For make you go vote now this land. Let the all you. If you don't want make them country again, make them creep you. Cause this time you're salon for right.
See what you been a second cabo aduo. We bring good news, salon people every year. Census don't come again. We ready for contact, sky from the young to the old. Say the census go help make development day. Allow me them continue until you know go pay. It go help plan more schools, hospital and light, even water for you community. Who say you there?
Let them come to you. Yeah, one people, one nation. They didn't call you. Yeah. Now we know back go build salon. They didn't call you. Yeah. No person say you not here. They didn't call you. Yeah. They don't call you.
Census they come, the other we cooperate. Tell mama and papa, then get for country all, yeah, make we all ready. Census go help for make we know we safe, and who's how we stand. If you claim say you love salon, we say development day, na day you for day.
Yambo tegina, mimbo tegina, mingo te teke biambe, ka 2026. Census na me right, census na you right. Family, imagine, if they count everybody, they left you out.
Amulemba kotumogbawa, upoka kufuni ngesa gbele tuwa. Tonya, ye amubuji hule panda, wabulo letado bawa baya ganga. Ye tumogbawa mudagbe behave, comment ya go salon bate, mukweleva. Nyabi yina na metabo bawana, do mama kome kolabo ganya delega, yina.
Kakotone dim din dang, dim din dang, dim din dang. Katsap katsa ting anka pe katsa konkal, anka pe katsa panganda yer. Abagato bagats, aindo gor, akalene, samo jamu, agatsamu, tarentamu. Donye, mama maritaka ngonsu.
Ame ya timi wandi, timi wandi. Ame ya timi wandi, timi wandi. Mwa kongo tami wandi, ungewa menda milwena wo. Ya kongo tabi wandi, ungeba handa bebe holo.
From the east to the west, blama blama. From the north to the south, blama. No matter how you dare or you try, blama blama. You want to go, mama or papa, blama blama. One picking on grandpa, blama blama. Auntie or uncle, blama blama. Motibe, may they call you. Yeah, one people, one nation. May they call you. Yeah, now we know back go build salon. May they call you. Yeah. No person say you not here. May they call you. Yeah. They don't call to your rest.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Wake Up Sierra Leone on the Africa Young Voices. You're also hearing us on radio this morning on 101.7 frequency modulation. We are broadcasting in Freetown on Wester Street, where our headquarters are located. Now, the International Day of Cooperatives this year highlights how locally owned enterprises and cooperatives strengthen community, create jobs, and drive inclusive growth. In Sierra Leone here, where the private sector remains central to economic recovery, small and medium-sized enterprises account for nearly 90% of the private businesses and provide livelihoods for about 70% of the population, according to the International Finance Corporation. Yet, access to finance remains a major obstacle, with only around 17% able to secure formal credit. AYV's business reporter, Mamaja Jalloh-Dj, has the details.
Before sunrise, the day's trading has already begun. At this bustling market, every stall represents school fees, household income, and hope. Across Sierra Leone, thousands of entrepreneurs begin each morning with the same ambition: to grow a business capable of changing a family's future.
When people think about economic growth, they often focus on large companies and foreign investments. But businesses like this one tells a different story. Every good sold, every customer served, and every worker employed contribute to household incomes, local commerce, and national development.
With electronics business, na business way profitable. It depends on your knowledge, because na business we not get fixed price. Then I started in 2016. I started with 200,000 loans, and now if I can imagine, are they above 40-50 million? It depends on how I do my business, make I able margin on that day, and now the help of the country back, because if you piece in at the country, you able to do business, it come out fine for you. The out of the business, I don't raise so many things. I don't want to pick out of my business. I don't raise the up, and I know say we just need the help of the government for where we put more power. But we not sit down because we know we say everything that the government for do and for we. Be back where for try out. We only to base for able to generate something out of a business what they do.
The African Development Bank Group, in its 2025 to 2030 country strategy for Sierra Leone, identifies private sector development as one of the country's most important pathways to sustainable growth, employment, and economic resilience. But achieving that ambition, they say, will require better infrastructure, affordable financing, and policies that reward enterprise.
Under this business, around make program between me and picking them. When you not go through, you go to Okamba. Me with me picking them. Under this business. For now, I depend try back. In a go school, they pay close to 50 million for a year. But I thank God, because once I get life, I get hope. I say one grain I go make. If I know able to make myself, the beginning I will make am for me, inshallah. In each way they do in life, just hold on tight. You na business woman, hold on tight. You na office worker, just hold on tight. One grain day, it also will make sense. I start to work with the worker, they sell office to office. So my sister decided I can't sick, my sister decided for catch me. So now I thank God. Because at least me picking up born at 6. I get 2 men picking women picking cow with so now we 10 days now. I thank God for this business where they do. Because we all will survive it. Also at my own community, me na share lady for the youth them. Before they come on and me for canon and money, that me 10,000, that me 100,000 they die. Because I know say I must say block me now with a chair. Such it and pass and balance because a business sorry. I need squeeze for the other person because I get other thing there for do.
International Corporate Day is not only about celebrating multinational companies, it is also an opportunity to recognize the determination of small business owners whose resilience keeps local economies alive. Their success ultimately translates into stronger resilience national economy.
For many entrepreneurs, success is measured not by the size of today's shop, but by tomorrow's possibilities. As Sierra Leone works to diversify its economy, these small enterprises continue to prove that the greatest engines of national prosperity often begins with the smallest ideas. Mamaja Jalloh-Dj.
Many thanks to Mamaja Jalloh-Dj for that report. We return to the main studio now. In our first conversation today, we're going to discuss security matters, as Sierra Leone is set to officially host the 69th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government from 12th to 19th July 2026 at the newly constructed conference facilities in Freetown and Lungi. This historic summit, the first hosted by Sierra Leone since ECOWAS was established in 1975, is heavily focused on urgent regional security matters under the leadership of President Julius Maada Bio, the current ECOWAS chairman. However, on Monday, Sierra Leone and Guinea also officially reopened the Yenga border crossing after more than a year of closure following sustained diplomatic efforts. The reopening restores cross-border trade and movement, while Sierra Leone will continue to maintain its revenue and immigration presence in Yenga. We will discuss safety for Sierra Leoneans, among other security matters. This morning, to discuss all of these, we have Abdul Karim Wheel. He's the Director of Communications, Office of National Security, ONS. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you and good morning. It's a pleasure being here.
Before we get to the ECOWAS, let's start with Yenga. Now the border is reopened. Which flag is stationed at Yenga? Basically, which country is Yenga officially recognized to be part of as we speak?
It's an ongoing discussion. The issue around Yenga has been around with us for over a decade, and the issues continue to flip-flop. Sometimes there are tensions and sometimes we ease the tensions. You mentioned that the border was closed last year, and the circumstances surrounding that closure are things that were unfortunate. The residents in that community became dissatisfied over issues relating to harassment and what have you, and the physical deployment of Guinean Armed Forces personnel GAF into Yenga territory. And to further escalate the tension, there was the pronouncement of a closure of the crossing point on Makona. That was on the 28th of April last year, 2025. And so that prompted our reaction. We also had a similar deployment in Sokoma, Bogebendo, and the general Kisiteng area to prevent those situations that led to intimidation of our nationals and what have you. Fast forward, the border remained closed. At that moment, up to the time we had the border reopened. But realizing that such kinds of development will only negatively impact the people that are residing on those communities, because their cross-cultural trade, intermarriages, crisscrossing, even the culture and tradition of those people are the same. And so any tension of that nature will only negatively impact them. Apart from Yenga, there are also issues of concerns around the border between us and Guinea, for which efforts have been made and continue to be made to resolve all of these issues.
At what stage is this resolution currently? I asked earlier about which flag is mounted at those locations,
so
Yenga particularly.
I was given a background so that I will narrow in on that. It's a mixed bag. It's a bag having a collection of issues. We are unpacking these issues stage after stage, one after the other. Having spoken about the good bilateral relationships between us and Guinea, concerns around border ownership should not overshadow those good ties that have existed between us and among the people that are ordinarily residing in those communities. So whilst there are concerns over the ownership of Yenga, we thought, our leaderships thought, rightly so, that it was high time that we de-escalate the tensions. As I speak, we still have some presence of Guinean Armed Forces personnel in Yenga village, whilst we also maintain our posture at Sokoma. The discussions are ongoing, and full withdrawal or deployment of whichever force into Yenga territory will have to happen at the end of those discussions. But I tell you, prior to the reopening of the border, we had sustained engagement with our counterparts on the other end. Our commanders in Sierra Leone, commanders in Nongoa, the GAF personnel, had prior meetings, several meetings on Sierra Leone's end, on Guinea end, to discuss the fine details as to what we'll obtain going forward, because it is to ease the humanitarian problem unnecessarily that had been created there, to ensure that there is return to normal movement of goods and services crisscrossing between Nongoa and Sierra Leone. Interestingly, what obtained there in terms of trade is not only beneficial to Sierra Leone and Guinea, it benefits other countries within West Africa, Senegal, Mali, and Liberia. So any tension of that nature, if it continues to fetter like it was happening, it will only mean that there will be economic hardship on those people whose occupation, whose calling is to engage into business. So to answer your question, we still have some presence of Guinean armed forces in Yenga village, and we have our Sierra Leonean personnel also deployed in those, but with the full understanding that the discussions that are happening at the diplomatic level are going to result into a decision that will now totally de-escalate the tension. whilst Yenga is what is very prominent and for very good reasons in the cards, there are other border security concerns between us and Guinea, and even between us and Liberia. For that reason, joint technical commissions have been established between Sierra Leone and Guinea, between Sierra Leone and Liberia, to the extent that those committees have been having engagement in Conakry, in Sierra Leone, to discuss the fine issues, the fine details relating to border infractions or border security concerns or border management generally. We've gone a long way. We've made a lot of inroads. As recent as last year, we were in Monrovia, in Liberia, where the Joint Technical Commissions of Guinea and Sierra Leone, and Liberia and Sierra Leone, Guinea and Liberia, Guinea and Ivory Coast, were present in the conference room at the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Memorial Hall, where we signed up to treaties, we signed up to pacts of a dialogue, parts of a cooperation in terms of what we do to resolve our common border challenges. These technical commissions have experts as the membership of those commissions. People from legal, the Ministry of Foreign, the Ministry of Justice, the University of Sierra Leone, the security sector, civil society, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Ministry of Local Government, the Ministry of Lands, and all of that. So all of the people that are supposed to be in that committee that will have to play a role in border demarcation, in border determination, based on the coordinate that had existed since our colonial days, are re-established to ensure that we pinpoint on who owns where and what should happen going forward.
Being that this conversation, the negotiation, the diplomacy around it has spanned for way over 2 decades, is this something that is going to continue on that trajectory, or would there be as well on this ECOWAS Media Summit that Sierra Leone is about to host this mid-month? Would that also form part of the agenda, since it's for ECOWAS heads of states and governments?
So the discussions that we have been having continue to hold. They have not stalled at all. We've not had a stalemate. And therefore, the need to have some other body looking at it will not actually hold sway. If we had had a stumbling block, there is a problem in the negotiations, in the discussions, they will say, let us escalate it.
Do you consider over 2 decades of diplomatic engagements not a stumbling block to arriving at a conclusion to know who owns where, considering how it had escalated last year?
Yes, so you see, problems are easy to come by. It takes patience, it takes commitment to be able to resolve them. It's like ailment. You could get up one morning and you are ill. Resolving that problem will not be as easy as you got the problem. So I just stated that apart from Yenga, there are so many other border security concerns. I mean, the border between Sierra Leone and Guinea spans from the Melekule River, which is down here in Cambia district.
No, I asked you this because I asked you this because of your response when I asked if this is now going to be escalated to form part of the agenda for this ECOWAS meet.
It's already escalated. ECOWAS, AU have been dealing with this issue. In fact, it is them that have played those roles to ensure that the joint technical commissions that I mentioned for Sierra Leone, for Guinea and Liberia, with the heads of state of these countries all involved, in fact, and Ivory Coast, that have constituted these teams to look at the fine technical details. Because in our colonial period,
to discuss Yenga during this summer.
Well, we do not envisage discussing Yenga specifically. But if in the sideline,
biggest meeting,
if it's in the side, if in the process there is need to discuss Yenga, to discuss border security concerns.
As a
then why
security
not?
expert, do you see the need to discuss Yenga at this level?
So I just stated that we have not had a stalemate. I would not envisage having a stalemate. We've made a lot of inroads. I tell you, last year or thereabouts, the joint technical commissions between Sierra Leone and Guinea were in Nongoa, in Kailaon, where after several other meetings, we had gathered documents from our own archives. They also gathered documents from their own archives. And we sat in a round conference and analyzed these documents based on the legal documents, the administrative documents, and the cartographic documents. Legal documents will mean those treaties that were signed up to between the two countries. What were these documents? How authentic are they in terms of their legality? Are they articles? Are they bilateral agreement between the colonial governments of Sierra Leone and Guinea at the time? We looked at administrative documents, those exchanges, letters of administration between the colonial secretaries or the colonial heads of either countries. We analyzed those documents and we looked at the cartographic documents. The cartographic documents would actually speak to the maps that would determine where Sierra Leone ends, where Guinea ends. Where is the border?
From the documents
So the discussions have not been able to pinpoint on who owns, whether Yenga or Massine or the Belekure, all of these areas.
Documents show nothing.
No, they show a lot of things. So at the end of those discussions, we came up with a report. And that report has been forwarded to all of the relevant authorities, including ECOWAS and the AU. The AU has a border commission program, AUBP, AU Border Project, that is working towards ensuring that all border issues across West Africa, across the region, are resolved before 2030. So those discussions came out with several recommendations. In the report that we did, we realized that the need for us, because the document that we had collected are actually internal documents that we have in our archives. Same for Guinea. We have not started, we've started with Liberia, but we've not gone as far as we've gone with our counterpart in Guinea. So we recommended that there was need for a small team to be put together on Sierra Leone's part and on Guinea's part to visit home offices. Sierra Leone, we were colonized by the British. So if we want to corroborate the document that we have in our archives, we may want to send a person or we'll use our embassies in London to see where they can access those documents in the National Archives, because we are certain that they are there just for authentication or to corroborate what we have. The same thing for Guinea. French Guinea was actually being governed by Senegal. Senegal was a commune for French West Africa, French West Africa. And so they have both Senegal and they could also have France, Paris. So we had recommended that. Secondly, we would also recommended that there is need for a technical team, a joint technical team to be constituted to do physical visitation and demarcation or identification of those border points. Whilst we might have things on paper, some of the arrangement that happened. Say.
That means you'll be deviating from all the original documents.
No, so that is why we are visiting. The original document, in the original document that are existing, some of the areas were identified by physical structures, either a village, a river, or trees, or what have you. Some of these features are no longer there. Some of the villages, especially on the part of Sierra Leone, no longer exist. So if you had, say, Waterloo, for example, as the village where Sierra Leone stops, and beyond Waterloo is the village where Guinea begins. If Waterloo no longer exists, then there is a proclivity, there is a tendency that somebody might have moved beyond Waterloo and now will claim Waterloo and even beyond Waterloo. But if you now go to physically, because what we have on paper, you can see the fine print until you go on the ground before you'll be able to pinpoint on the realities on the ground. So these technical commissions are not meant to change the border lines. They are not meant, it is just to reaffirm. That is why the technical commissions that have been constituted are nicknamed as a joint technical commission for the reaffirmation of the land and sea borders between Sierra Leone and Guinea. And so the recommendation is that we could now actually jointly, cartographers, experts from Guinea, experts from Sierra Leone, will now be constituted and go to the ground to say, okay, we are certain that what we have in terms of our cartographic mapping is what is here. And then we recommended that to avoid these kinds of problems going forward, owing to the fact that our relationship between Guinea and Sierra Leone is one that is impressive. We've, helped each other in good and bad times. So considerations of that nature should not in any way tear us apart. So we have recommended that if there is a possibility for us to re-legislate these borders using our parliament, so that we now know that at this point where I am seated is where we are going to mount the flags, one pointing at Guinea and the others pointing in Sierra Leone. So going forward, our future generation, our kids, will no longer inherit these kinds of problems. Because what we are currently having is really a thorn in the flesh, because there are better things to do than engaging in these kinds of concerns relating to border ownership.
At the moment, who controls Yenga, that particular area? I saw some videos the other day.
Yeah, so I just stated that prior to the reopening, we had Guinean presence, large presence of Guinean troops in Yenga town.
I saw a lot of them actually.
See?
So I saw a lot of them on the video.
Yes, so they are there. They have reduced the strength.
Doesn't this terrorize even the residents around that area?
It's worrying, it's concerning. That's the reason that when that development happened, we swiftly responded by also deploying. And that deployment still...
How many soldiers do we have?
No, we don't want to let that, because that's administrative
okay, I understand.
security. But we have huge presence, adequate troops in that community, adequate that we'll be able to handle that situation. But we actually would want to emphasize strength or weakness.
I'm trying to understand the life of people living around that area.
Yeah.
Doesn't it frighten them to be looking over your shoulder every day, as if you are a foreigner in a foreign land?
So
in their own home country, you know.
So the current deployment,
yeah.
the current deployment of our soldiers has even given the people additional hope. I tell you, for a long time they had been crying for these kinds of deployments, because border crossing points are areas that are very critical, germane not only to security but even economic interest. And having national presence in those communities is what the communities always clamor for. Are things that they always wish to have. Before now, the concern has been, why are you not there? Why are you not deployed there? What is that you are doing? Guinea have their troops and that kind of a thing. So we have now stated, our authorities have directed that let us have also our presence in the areas where we consider ours, because border security and border governance are ones that are very, very critical to national development and security. If you control your borders, then you control everything, because you'll be able to determine what comes in and what goes out.
There are those who had fled to Koindu when the incident happened. Have
Yes.
you taken cognizance of these people?
Sure.
Have they been returned back to...
Sure. So
homes
if I'm certain that you've gone through the press release that emanated from the Ministry of Civic Education. Ministry of Communication and Civic Education. It speaks to several issues. The reopening, the purpose for the reopening, the processes that led to the reopening, what are the conditions, preconditions prior to the opening, and what will happen or what is happening in relation to those people. I mean, Yenga is a small village. The structures in Yenga town are no concrete structures. Even in situations where you have concrete structures, if you abandon those, for months or years down the line, there is a tendency that they could dissipate. That's the situation currently. The people of Yenga, most of them, had moved over to Kwendu and its surrounding villages. In the process, most of their structures no longer exist. So to have them to go back will mean you have to put in place measures that will ensure that they go back into safer grounds. Safer grounds in the sense they have shelter, they have access to the basic things that they are supposed to have access to, because these are largely agricultural communities. So you think about the tools and that kind of a thing. That's why I stated that it's a big bag that has a lot of other things inside of it. So the negotiations, the discussions are ongoing with the local authorities, with authorities at the central level, to ensure that we resolve the matters adequately. Opening of the border is just one of those things that you could do to ease the tensions. Because in the first place, the border was not supposed to be closed. While it's not wrong to close borders, but borders should be closed based on mutual understanding, reasons that are understood by both parties. And you don't expect borders to be opened all of the time. Let us say, for example, on a daily basis, the borders are closed. At the end of the work of the day, you close the borders. At a particular point in the morning, you reopen. It happens in Balamuya, it happens in Jendema, it happens in every other crossing point. But we are saying that going forward, if for any reason Sierra Leone wants to close its borders to foreign traffic, you have to inform the neighboring colleague 48 hours ahead of that closure, and vice versa. If Guinea wants to do the same, it is in their right. Say, for example, if they have a major event, they want to have elections, they want to have census for which they actually want to control their borders in terms of movement of people particularly, or goods and services, and they will not be distracted, want to be distracted from there, they could say, Sierra Leone, on Friday or Saturday, we are closing the border for XYZ reason. It's even important that they inform us or we inform them so that it will help them enforce. If people from Sierra Leone want now to go to Guinea using our structure, will say no, there is this situation in Guinea for which you are not expected to go there within that time.
Finally, on this younger stuff, you painted the pictures as though by 2030 we would have known who owns Yenga and who controls it. Is that the case?
So it is the ambition of AU, the African Union Border Project, to ensure that all border issues across West Africa, I tell you, there are several border security situations across West Africa. In some places, lives are lost. People are fighting for territory on a daily basis. And this is not good for our African integration. So the AU, ECOWAS, and other regional bodies, including the Emmanuel River Union, are very much keen in ensuring that these problems are resolved. Because if we want to have an Africa where people are free to move from point A to point B, as long as they do so within the provisions of the laws of those countries where they move to, then they should be able to do so without let or hindrance. But with developments of this nature, if you go to borders in other countries, I would not want to do that kind of a PR because it will sound negative. But the situations are appalling. And so if it is happening there where people are losing their lives, where goods and services are being destroyed in terms of their movement, then we will not want to have a similar situation in Sierra Leone. Thankfully, the leaderships of both countries have been able to realize and communicate these kinds of directives to say, we don't need that kind of attention. We are one and the same people. The things that have happened between us are more positive than any consideration of negative kinds of feelings about border ownership or what have you. What we are saying, if it belongs to Sierra Leone, let it be pronounced that it belongs to Sierra Leone. It does not matter who comes to do what on that ground, as long as it's clear by law that this belongs to this person. That's why one of the resolutions is that for this moment, while the negotiations are ongoing, tax collection on our end should be done by our officers, our revenue officers. Prior to the closure of the border, that was not the case. tax collection, on the other end, in Nongoa, for example, has to be done by officials of Guinea. That's natural. That is what is expected. And so we all have signed up to that, and we respect that fully. And that did not happen overnight. It did not happen in vacuum. We had sustained discussions, and those discussions are going to continue. The National Security Coordinator in the Office of National Security, Mr. Abdullah Koka, has directed for the re-establishment of the Joint Border Security and Confidence Building units. These units had been there to, address these kinds of tensions, these kinds of concerns, where you have a team from Sierra Leone on a monthly basis moving to Guinea to hold discussions with their counterpart on that end, and they also, the following month, will come over to Sierra Leone. So that camaraderie was built through those committees. It has been directed that these committees be reconstituted so that we begin, or we continue that very fine bilateral kind of engagement that we used to have between Sierra Leone and Guinea and between Sierra Leone and Liberia.
Sierra Leone is about to host by far the biggest summit, you know. It's going to expose Sierra Leone in many ways, drive perhaps tourism eventually, and even boost the economy because of the huge cash that's about to be pumped locally. But how secured are we? How prepared? What's the, how you call it, tactical arrangement for security details during this very busy time in Sierra Leone?
So our interventions, generally our security sector, are informed by information, intelligence, and these information and intelligence that we have are gathered from the communities, from our sources, and from even us, the security agents. And it is that information or that intelligence that we have that will now analyze and then determine the threat level.
Okay.
From our security information and the intelligence gathered so far, we can confirm that Sierra Leone and any other part of this country remains relatively peaceful. And as a sector, mindful of the fact that the event, like you mentioned, that we are hosting, could be one of the biggest events that has happened in Sierra Leone for the longest period. I can't remember when we had this kind of summit. So we are fully prepared. Our security antennas are alert. Our officers have been pre-deployed in the various areas where we think that such deployments are supposed to take place. But, of course, not taking anything for granted. We believe that this is a conference that any other person, well-meaning person, will want to support to see its success. So we are prepared, that is much I could say. We are doing what we are supposed to do. We'll continue to do what we have responsibility to do to perform our mandate, so that those heads of states that will be hosted by their counterpart, the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, who is also incidentally the chairman of the ECOWAS Heads of Authority in Sierra Leone, are safe, no incident, and the conference is going to happen. We assure the public that it's going to happen hitch-free. That is as a result of the fact that we have made our plans and the arrangements are being rolled out.
What's our current security level?
Okay, going back to what I stated, before we determine security levels at any point, we might have collected information and intelligence. Information, if I want to distinguish or a little elaborate, it's open information, it's open data that is available to public domain. Intelligence, it's much more than that. It means you have to have the extra eye, the extra tools to collect those and be able to know that if you say this is going to happen, you are actually certain, you are predicting that indeed it's going to happen, until you do X, Y, Z to counter it or to let it happen. So when we have all of this, we do threat assessments. There is a unit within the Office of National Security. It's a national security arrangement. They call it the Joint Intelligence Committee, that conducts threat assessments daily, almost on a daily basis. And so from those threat analysis, we will now be able to draw conclusions. So from what we have currently, Sierra Leone remains relatively peaceful. By the security levels, there are 3 layers. We have levels 1, 2, and 3. By level 1, it means there is no known threat to the safety and security of the country. Generally, things are happening as they are supposed to happen. We seated here to do the normal business. Kids go to school, colleges are running, and all of those. You are actually sure that there is nothing that is posing as a threat to the country's integrity, to the country's security. That does not mean that you are not going to have those injects, pickpocketing, those minor riots, and that kind of a thing. What is important is that you have the ability, you have the structures to be able to, interact with those kinds of things and resolve them. Level 2 is a situation where you have a growing and potential threat to the safety of the country, the integrity of the citizenry or the country itself. And in Sierra Leone, the time after the war in which we have envisaged a level 2 situation is when we had those pandemics or those epidemics. So most of our level 2 situation has been escalated as a result of health security concerns, health emergencies. During the coronavirus disease, the Ebola virus disease in 2014, the coronavirus disease in 2019. I mean, you do not need to be a rocket scientist to know that a lot of things almost crumbled. I mean, gatherings were prohibited. All of our resources and attention were focused on addressing this growing and potential threat to the country's security. So we have been swaying from levels 1 to level 2. Going to level 2 have mostly been informed on account of those health situations. Level 3, which is the worst level, it means there is a total breakdown of law and order. Nobody is in charge. Things are happening in a way that is anomalous. Things are happening in a way that nobody will want to even do those fine things that they are supposed to do. Even if you do them in hiding. And that is when you now have, if there is going to be any form of governance of the country, you now constitute what is referred to as a war cabinet. Because the cabinet will now be focusing on fighting that particular tension that the country has, that has led it to almost become crumbling. The period during the rebel war is best described as that level when we degenerated into level 3 situation. Because most cases, most parts of the country remained ungoverned. I mean, some other people who had not gotten the mandate of the people were the ones that were administering things that were happening in that kind of a situation. We pray that we do not degenerate into that level. That's the reason we always call on the citizenry that given an experience of that brutal civil war, we could argue, we could have all of our differences, but let us not create any situation that will lead us into those dark days, because it derailed the country. It derailed people. Families got shattered. People lost their future. I mean, the dangers or the effects of the war are still palpable. Some people had their limbs amputated. Those are no longer going to grow for the rest of their lives. So when you think of all of those things, it only means that we have to embrace peace, we have to embrace safety, because it is where peace prevails that development will happen. Otherwise, it becomes difficult.
So because we're having the ECOWAS Meet Summit this month, there are citizens, perhaps for maybe out of ignorance, do not understand how the security sector is expecting them to carry themselves, especially those who reside in some of these areas where you would find our visitors, Lungi. What do you expect from the citizens? How are they supposed to carry themselves? There are those who would be scared that with all those heads of states, there would be too much tension.
Okay.
What do you expect citizens to do? How should they carry themselves?
The event itself will be streamlined. The people that will be hosting are important visitors, and so they'll be taken to places where they ought to be taken. So it's just like, it's going to be like a festival in the streets. So people are not supposed to go about their normal business. No, they have to go about their normal business as long as they do so within the provisions of the law. There is an international conference center that will be launched by the president very shortly in Lungi. That is where we are going to have the event hosted, especially for the heads of state. 12, thereabout, or 11 heads of state will be coming into Sierra Leone on that day to be hosted by their counterpart in Lungi. And so that vicinity will be called on to ensure that those people who do not have business do not intrude, and we also do not infringe on the free movement of people, because even the location of the conference center itself makes it ideal that those people who have business are the only ones that are going to go, and those people who do not have business will not have any things to worry about. It will only mean that Lungi will be in a fanfare mood. I'm sure as a citizen of Sierra Leone, I am proud that Lungi is able to host this kind of event. Sierra Leone is able to host this kind of event. So specifically, the people of Lungi should be proud that this kind of thing is happening in that territory. I will not say it's their territory, but it belongs more to them than it belongs to the rest of Sierra Leoneans. So they should also support the process to ensure that there is, there is decorum, there is respect for those people that will be coming, because they are strangers. All of us, they are strangers. We are playing host to them, just like the president is doing. So we comport ourselves. If you are a bike rider, you do the things that you are supposed to do within the provisions of the if you are a motorist, just those kinds of things. Mindful of the fact that there is this event. Those things that I might have been doing in normal situation that will cause some confusion, I refrain from doing them. And going forward, you continue to behave in that way, because that is what is expected of every peaceful citizen.
We'll surely come back to you, Abdul Karim Will. Now, yesterday, during the government press conference, Yusuf Keketuma Sandi, who is press secretary, and Timothy Musa Kaba, Minister of Foreign Affairs, said for Sierra Leone, the summit is as much a diplomatic opportunity as it is a logistical and financial undertaking, and hosting the gathering reinforces the country's growing regional influence under President Julius Maada Bio's chairmanship of ECOWAS, while some economists and members of the public are questioning the cost at a time when many households continue to face economic pressures. Now let's hear from AYV's Samuel Tony Sawyer.
Founded in 1975 to promote regional economic integration, ECOWAS has since evolved into one of Africa's most influential political and security blocs. The adoption of the 1991 Mechanism for Conflict Prevention, Management, Resolution, Peacekeeping and Security transformed its mandate, enabling the organization to respond collectively to conflict, unconstitutional changes of government and emerging security threats across West Africa. Today, as the region confronts terrorism, political transitions and economic uncertainty, leaders are gathering in Sierra Leone for the 69th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government to chart the bloc's next phase.
So we gladly inform people, and I formally say we go host all the heads of states then on the 19th of July, we go be on a Sunday at Lungi. But also, before we go to Sunday, ECOWAS also gets what they call mid-year statutory meetings them, we then go for all. And
the president's no more. This is a pride to every single Sierra Leonean. The reason being that ECOWAS not established for 50 years. They established on the 28th of May.
We believe this historic moment with President Bio, the first time they organized this organization in summit in our country, now a big pride and a testament to the re-emergence of Salon on the global stage, providing leadership for stability, security, economic integration in our sub-region.
For Sierra Leone, hosting the summit offers an opportunity to strengthen its diplomatic profile and showcase its capacity to convene high-level international engagements.
What is striking about this meeting as well is from the information we had to get from Keketoma mainly. We will most likely have more heads of state at this summit than ECOWAS don't get probably in the last 10 years. Everybody won for cancer alone under the chairmanship of our president. And as I say, very significantly, Mauritania, we left in 2000. The president, they come for observe, and I should say, it go join back.
An example of how regional integration through politics and security can avert what would have led to a far-reaching, insecurity in the sub-region. Because what the coup system try to enhance now for destabilize Benin, for many people get access to the port for terror, for finance terrorism. So the president was very swift in ordering the Nigerian Air Force for making them go and stop that. But also we see under the leadership of the president, both in the African Union and in ECOWAS, being accelerate the smooth transition of Guinea to a democratic rule.
But some citizens are questioning the financial implications at a time when inflation and cost of living remain key economic concerns. Government officials, however, insist that the summit should be viewed as a long-term investment in regional influence, tourism, trade, and international partnerships. The week-long program includes meeting of the Administration and Finance Committee, the Mediation and Security Council at ministerial level, and discussions on the future direction of regional integration before heads of state convene on 19th July. The outcome are expected to shape ECOWAS's response to security, governance, and economic challenges affecting more than 400 million people across West Africa. Samuel Tony Sawyer, AYV News, Freetown.
All right, indeed, welcome back to the studio. Many thanks indeed to our man Samuel Tony Sawyer for putting that report together. Abdul, I know that much attention will be paid to the areas where the conferences will be held. What about the other areas of the country? During such times, people tend to be extremely unruly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we've even observed that there is scaremongering that is being sent out there, especially on social media.
Okay.
Quite recently, about on the 2nd of July this month, there was a minor incident at the Madamaya checkpoint. Madamaya is in Binle Chiefdom in Kambia district. That's a major crossing point between Sierra Leone and Guinea. Where doing a tune exercise, our security personnel apprehended a vehicle with a Guinean number plate. And in that vehicle there were 5 passengers, including the driver. And they discovered somebody with a rifle and some magazines, a pair of military uniform and boots, and a cap, a full set. And that was concealed at the back of the vehicle. And so, as expected, they apprehended this vehicle and arrested all of the people for proper investigations as to what the purpose, first of their visit, and why do they have to bring in an arm into Sierra Leone. One Alpha Kamara, who identified himself as a Guinean and serving in the Guinean Armed Forces, claimed ownership of the military items, the fatigue, including the rifle. And so we took them into custody and investigations were launched. Shortly after that incident, social media became awash with a publication that huge truckloads of arms and ammunition have crossed into Sierra Leone from neighboring Guinea. That is clearly an attempt to stroke fear into the minds of the unsuspecting members of the public. And knowing that this has a lot of negative effects, we came back and did rejoinders to correct that misinformation. to say, no, that is not true. Yes, a rifle was arrested, but not rifles. And the circumstances around this person or these people coming into Sierra Leone are being investigated. As at yesterday, we were able to pinpoint on what actually was the purpose of the visit of those people into Sierra Leone. Apparently, one of those people that we had in custody was suffering from mental ailment. And the relatives, as expected, want to help him. And they were directed to a herbalist or a traditional medical practitioner into Tonkolimba. This military officer, being a relative of that demented person, was accompanying them. Apparently, he's deployed somewhere. Say, if I'm working as a military officer, I've been deployed, say, in Cambia, and it is where my relatives are, and there is a problem, I want to accompany them into Guinea. So he just took all of his military regalia, forgetting about the protocols, maybe because he's a junior officer, a very small boy. You know, you would expect that maybe he could have forgotten the fact that there are military protocols and standards, especially when it has to do with cross-border. So he accompanied relatives, and it was in the process that they were intercepted. So clearly, there are no ill intentions. In collaboration with our colleagues in Guinea, our counterparts in Guinea, we were able to resolve that matter, to say no, they had no ill intention. This their relative is suffering from some mental problems. They want to help him, and that was the person that they were bringing. So that matter has been concluded. It has been closed, laid to a rest. But these kinds of things are happening on social media, basically being done by people who want to throw a narrative that suits their convenience. And that is what the public should not lose sight of, because these kinds of people are only bent on ensuring that they stroke fear where fear does not exist. They continue to paint the image of the country badly. I mean, that we are hosting a summit of this nature will tell you that Sierra Leone is not doing badly at the international stage. We are everywhere. You go to UN, you go to AU, ECOWAS, we prevail. And still some people, for their own benefit, it's not because they don't have the correct information, but they distort these kinds of information so that they fester their own nest. And that is completely bad. We call on them, especially for some of our brothers and sisters who live in the diaspora, to refrain from doing these kinds of things, because it's an image that you are painting of a country that you call yours that is not the correct one. It will reflect on you directly or indirectly, because if you see all of what happens in Sierra Leone is doom and gloomy, and you are a Sierra Leonean, you should not be surprised if you are treated as one such person. Again, we have heard of narratives that when people travel to airports in other countries, you are treated as a criminal when you show a Sierra Leonean passport. Well, maybe the experiences are different. I was in the United States recently, and before going to the United States, I went through other airports, international airports, where I presented my Sierra Leonean passport. I was not treated in any way different than the other people.
Could it be because you're part of the security sector?
No, people don't even know, because I was not on uniform. I do not carry uniform. I do not carry any kind of a thing. I was just part of the ordinary group of people with a Sierra Leonean passport. I went to Brussels Airport, to Washington Dulles Airport. In fact, contrary to being the narrative of people being maltreated, I was treated with respect.
Were you only using the ordinary passport?
I had both the ordinary passport and I had the service passport. And you know, if you're traveling,
which one did you travel with?
And you have visas on both, you can show both, and so that they stamp.
So you had both presented.
Both presented, yes.
The service and the ordinary.
Yeah, the service and the ordinary.
Could it be why perhaps you did not experience what some?
So there were other
have experienced?
There were other Sierra Leoneans on the queue where I was that had Sierra Leonean passports. They were not treated in any way different than I was treated. So
the conclusion of your experience is that those who have experienced that should
no,
be
I'm not saying.
What are you driving at?
No, I just stated that the experiences might not be the same. But in my own case, what I witnessed completely negates those narratives that I have been hearing. And even in Washington, at the National Defense University, where the course was being delivered, I mean, they didn't tell us that Sierra Leone was rated high in terms of criminality, especially those things that people want to project. What I'm driving at is that the challenges that come with organized criminality are global menaces that we should all team up to fight. If you vilify your country, you vilify the structures, people who are doing great things, you only succeed in demotivating them, and that is what exactly the rogue element will survive on. They want you to be divided, they want you to look bad, those people who do the dirty work to look bad, and then they'll be able to thrive and thrive well. But I was not treated badly, both on my way to the States and on my way back from the States. I was accorded, the best treatment that you want to accord. I went to several other states in the United States. Those things that we have as a picture in those kinds of communities do not exist at all. And like any other country, the challenges that we are facing are not only germane to Sierra Leone, they are not only unique to Sierra Leone, they also happen elsewhere. I mean, it is our collective resolve to change our narratives that is going to bring success, other than those kinds of pictures that people paint and give the impression that in Sierra Leone it is doom and gloomy. That is not the case at all. We are doing extremely well. There are concerns. No one would deny that. It is those concerns that we should come together in unison to fight, because the rogue element will do everything to beat systems. And if we remain divided, we have different narratives that are being thrown out there, then the rogue element will only continue to survive. I think those are the things that I wanted to state.
All right, and lastly, as we close, it's the rainy season, and it's really during the rainy season that the night carpenters seem to have a flourishing season to sort of continue stealing from people. How prepared is the security sector, understanding that rainy season is really a very busy time for the thieves and also a concerning period for residents?
Okay, so let me first of all announce that we have a toll-free line, because in those moments of distress, people would need to have somewhere to reach at in having rescue. So there is a 119 toll-free line which functions on all of the mobile service networks. We do not pray that you encounter such situations, but if those situations happen to you anywhere and at any time, please call 119 to report, and report promptly. We know that when we are having these kinds of programs, the rogue elements will also be listening. So when they go to communities to commit havoc, they will be the first people that will call. Unakamo na Wellington when they na Kalbatong. Unakamo na Kisi Road when they na Wilkinson Road. So we're mindful of that kind of a situation. They do so to confuse the responders, and to also state that your best security is your very self. I mean, whilst the police will be doing the routine patrols, night patrol, the beat patrols, they will not be the ones that will tell you to close your door. They will not be the ones that will tell you to cross-check whether all of the windows, all of the areas where you are supposed to check before you go to bed are checked. So pay attention to these kinds of things, especially when it's raining. Those are the periods, like you rightly mentioned, Phoebe, those are the periods that the night carpenters will come, because you will think that the people will be fast asleep, and it will be difficult to respond. Sometimes they go to not difficult terrains, but they take advantage of those periods in the middle of the night and begin to wreak havoc. Call 119 or call the police on 800 to report these kinds of, as you are suspicious of some funny movements around your area, call and report. But importantly, close your doors. Be mindful of those people who come in and out of your premises, because they could be people who will be those that will actually facilitate the happenings that people normally encounter in those communities. We do not want to have incidents of that nature. The police is aware that every year it is during the rainy seasons that unfortunately some of the bad people will begin to become very active. They crisscross the country, go up country, go to the provinces, whether it's in Bo, in Kenema, in Makeni. It's like a syndicated kind of a thing. They do so crisscrossing, in spite of the fact that police keeps arresting, investigating and charging these kinds of people. They continue to live. For some people, they do not survive without crime. It is us that have to force them to do the fine things and not to be indulged in this bad behavior, because it pays to be hardworking, it pays to have and earn your living genuinely, because you'll not only be able to enjoy it freely, but even in the sight of God, it belongs to you. Those people who we go to steal from have not gotten what they got to relaxing. They might have sweated their bodies to get those kinds of things. So to want to deprive them of those facilities is really sinful, it's really uncalled for. That is why society frowns at it. There are laws against those kinds of behavior. So we call on citizens to remain alert, to help the police with information, to call where they need to call, and to also not harbor these kinds of people. Because it's not difficult to know that this person does not work. He sleeps whole day. At night, he's nowhere to be found. He brings in luxurious items into the community, and then you don't pay attention or report these kinds of people in your community. Then in a way, you are conniving, you are also playing a part for other people to be. And the sad thing is that the reality is that if you continue to harbor people who do wrong things onto other people in your neighborhood and you keep them, there will come a time when those other people that are hosted in the other neighborhood will come also to haunt you. So if we do not give them the opportunity to sit, they will not be able to fester. They will not be able to. We will smoke them out and we'll force them to do the needful.
All right, thank you very much, Bukai, for joining us this morning.
It's always a pleasure.
This is Wake Up Sierra Leone here on AYV Television and Radio. We're going on a quick break, and when we come back, we'll go to the second and final segment of the program. We'll be talking about disability issues. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
More and more people are using Rokel SIM Copper Plus in their everyday lives. Did you hear that? She just transferred money for her daughter's school fees. And this man just paid for some products. Ah, Mr. Abu, are you sending money to your wife again?
Yes, Rokel SIM Copper.
Ah.
Yes, like having money in my pocket.
Ah, excellent.
Thank you.
He just bought some eggs. The world is digital, so keep up with the times. Have you got a payment to make? If so, just download Rokel SIM Copper Plus now. You can download the Rokel SIM Copper Plus app from Apple iStore and iPad or Google Play Store for Android users. You see, it's fast, safe and reliable.
Sorry, car, go see some business partners.
You didn't give me memory, Michael. Can if I can say you give me this car, people in no to in Andy. Today you pay me money. I don't send it for let you help me send money in Ghana. 2 weeks now you not send me money and 10 you not give me back me money. Today, give me money.
You know ever sabi goodness in life. I send back your money, but trust me, today na the very last day I ever send money for now.
I don't need your help because I don't know so with Afri money. I able send money. Now Baku Africa countries them with Afri money. We able send money to over 10 African countries, whether it's Ghana, Gambia, Liberia, or Kenya. If me party we know this, we not follow the party grammar right now.
Okay, una go regret. I mean now, una go regret.
The best part right now, Michael, with Afri money, you dey able send money even if you not use app, even if you not the online directly. All you need for do, you just a dial *161#. Pam, your money don't go. So I don't need the help again.
thief man. Thank you.
Send money to over 10 African countries instantly with AfriMoney. No stress, no excuses. Just dial *161 *1 *6# now. AfriMoney, quick and easy.
You're still watching Wake Up Sierra Leone on the Africa Young Voices television. You're also hearing us on radio this morning on 101.7. Do not forget to send your messages or questions on our Facebook page. You can also link with us online on TikTok and YouTube this morning. Next to disability, across the world, more than 1.3 billion people, roughly 1 in every 6, live with a disability, according to the World Bank, making disability inclusion not a matter of charity, but of human rights and economic development. Yet millions remain excluded from decent work, education and opportunities, despite overwhelming evidence that inclusive workplaces strengthen economies and communities alike.
In Sierra Leone, where the informal economy dominates livelihoods, the barriers facing persons with disabilities are often compounded by poverty, stigma and limited access to vocational training. But at Shell New Road in eastern part of Freetown, one community-led organization is quietly rewriting that narrative by creating jobs, teaching practical skills and bringing persons with disabilities and able-bodied people together under one roof. The United Polio Brothers and Sisters is demonstrating that inclusion is not an aspiration. It is an everyday practice. Our reporter Issa Bangura has more on this.
The first thing that captures your attention is not disability, it's industry. Sparks leap from welding churches, sewing machines steadily, and skilled hands restored broken electrical appliances. The World Bank estimates that excluding persons with disabilities from education and employment can cost countries a significant share of their economic potential, while inclusive labor markets deliver broader productivity and social gains. Here at the United Polio Brothers and Sisters Workshop, ability is measured not by physical condition, but by craftsmanship, determination and purpose.
Yeah, we get different components. First and foremost, we get different components. Like this particular side, we start with the producing service and at the welding department. We get a student survey come up to 50 of them. We 30 of men, 20 of women. They with the train welding. The one, the initiative of the two, and for make we as person living with disability, for make we not go to sleep for good days. Also for make we tell the society say we step to contribute meaningfully towards community or society development. Also as a country as a whole. Because like this, we get how many people the way they try and train and also get women there, we get vulnerable groups there also where they come and train also. As we say, because of all of the initiatives that make the able to succeed already. So these are the initiatives for make us to be self-reliant, for make to create job opportunity for ourselves.
In Sierra Leone, we are more than 86% of employment remains vulnerable. According to World Bank or ILO estimates, secure livelihoods are already difficult to obtain. For persons living with disabilities, those challenges are often even greater. Rather than waiting for opportunity to arrive, members of this organization have chosen to build it themselves. Their workshop manufactures metal products, repair household electronics, creating employment, while transferring practical skills to a new generation.
We do this work for local help to the community. All they do, they do the work for it. And then they come by now one, who was for cooking them, woman them. Thank you for Randy. Now another common at risk for good. And this would only and this over 20 years. From old on farmer, old on day for yourself. And also the child will be in at risk when they struggle back. But from them time and the old on from this, it's all thank you.
This work here, it don't help me great. Like I tell you now, from where I left school, straight to this time here today. If not to this the work here, like I for not suffer a strain. Well, me I make cold pot. Cold pot now I make other different things there. I make coil stand. We be said that I make creator for myself through this disaster where fire they disturb people in this country. Yes, but really, like the material not enough for me. For now, now this now they can make cold pot. But I get different things they want to make right.
I come for Kalan this work here before I would sit down at house like the other one them or like for hang bag, but me know they parent style and them. So now I make a decide for my come learn this work. For my go able to support my family then and for do other things. So now I make a camp at this well. I make the mud, I make machine where they pull per mine. I make plenty things there. I'm so happy for that.
Across much of the world, disability advocates are calling for a shift from welfare to economic empowerment. At Shelny Road, that transition is already taking shape. One repaired appliance, one welded gate, and one skilled graduate at a time. For these artisans, dignity is not bestowed through sympathy. It is earned through work, sustained by opportunity, and strengthened by the simple belief that every person deserves the chance to contribute. Issa Bangura, AYV News, Freetown.
All right, welcome back. Now, this morning to discuss the issue, including the implementation of the Persons with Disability Act of 2011, talks about anti-discrimination, free education, medical services, employment protection, development fund, among other things. We've been joined on set by Brahma Abdullah Sharif. He's chairman of the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. The commissioner will also speak about his 1 year in office. Good morning. It's a pleasure.
Yes, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you very much for hosting me.
Suppose we could start by, examining how successful your tenure has been since you assumed office.
So thank you very much. I honestly want to start by recognizing those who've come with me throughout this first-year journey, the media, Ministry of Social Welfare, development partners, organizations of persons with disabilities, but most importantly, my team members in the office. I would say we have shifted the needle, but I think we have a lot of work to do, a lot of work. So when I took over last year, I wanted to understand the space. Of course, I'm a consultant for disabilities for a very long time. But being a consultant and actually being in office are two different things. So I wanted to understand the internal capacity of the institution, but also the real felt needs of people with disability outside. So I did an internal capacity gap assessment to be able to understand issue of staff resources, the capacity of staff to deliver, number of staff, but also infrastructure within the institution, our partnership relationship, our funding basket, the profile of the institution, and then education. What do people really know about the commission? So when I did that, it helped me to have a frame, but then I decided to go right around the country and also meet people with disability in their localities where they stay. And I was just looking at the video from United Polio Brothers and Sisters Association. These are one set of people that we've actually profiled. Maybe in the next 2 weeks, an international magazine is actually going to write a story about them. Okay. Because what came out very clearly is that, and I've said this several times, people with disability don't want sympathy. What we want is empathy, understand us, see us as human beings, and let's work together. So going around the country, the issue of skills training came out very clearly. There were women with disability in Kono who are doing farming, but they needed support. There are amputees and one women in Port Loko who are doing farming, but they needed support. There's a skills training center in Pujong and Matrujon that's really dilapidated. We have colleagues in Cambia, they have challenges in Bo and the rest. There are also students with disability in universities who are actually supposed to benefit from Section 14 of the Persons with Disability Law, but there are bottlenecks. There are pregnant women with disability who go to the hospital to benefit from Section 17 of the Persons with Disability Law that talks about free medical. There's also the issue of infrastructure, transports, buildings, public spaces. But there's also the issue of the attitudinal barriers, how society really perceives people with disability, and what are the efforts that are being made by individuals to shift that. There's also the challenge of service providers. What do they understand about the Persons with Disability Law? What do they understand? How are they putting all of this in practice? So all these formed critical issues. That's what helped me as head of the institution to design our vision. We designed a vision. I've spoken about this vision, but now it's really very clear that what helped us develop that vision is really the right thing that we did. So we had the Pride vision. It talks about what policies do we have in the country that are protecting people with disabilities. What can we do? The Persons with Disability Law, it's over a decade old. What are we doing in terms of its review? Resilient institutions like United Polio Brothers and Sisters, Polio Sisters Association in Grafton, OTS in Kenema, Wisoford in Cambia, and the others, Popda in Makeni, they have proven beyond all reasonable doubts that when persons with disability are supported, right infrastructure and resources and the capacity, they can actually move out of the street, but they can also contribute to national developments and job creation. So resilience also, what do we have as an institution to be able to deliver the work that we're doing? You don't give what you don't have. If we don't have enough staff, we don't have computers, we don't have enough resources, it's also a challenge. So we also wanted a resilient institution. Our watchword is innovation and inclusion. Right across the sphere, whether in government, in MDAs, in civil society, in NGOs, how are you positioning disability issues? How are people with disability actually taking part in a conversation to shape the lives and the actions and the directions that we want to take as a government? But also dignity. A gentleman from the video just spoke about it. Don't sympathize with us. See our humanity, not our disability. Restore the dignity of people with disability, not by the charity model that thinks people with disability cannot deliver. But let us use the social and the human right model. The social model talks about removing the external barriers, but then the human right model sees the humanity in people. And I think these are the key issues. And the last one is empowerment. United Poly brothers and sisters, I've gone to their place countless times because I see these ones as a massive example that we can use to be able to support other people. And it's very clear. They sat together, they said, we are moving from the streets, let's move. They developed the idea. Some people came to support them, but they still have challenges. So that is it that we developed for the past 1 year. What have we done? And again, I say this. Yes, we have moved, but the challenges still remain. For example, staff capacity. When I did the internal capacity gap assessment, I understood that even some of the staff do not understand the basic and core principles about disability. Disability communication, disability etiquette. For example, how many of us know that somebody sitting on a wheelchair, you don't have a right to touch the wheelchair without the person's permission, because the wheelchair is part of the body of the person. These are key issues. The languages that you use, you don't say disabled people, you say people with disability, because we want the humanity first before the disability. It's the human first. These are key issues about communications. If you're talking to somebody that is visually impaired, but the person has an aid, you don't speak to the aid, you speak to the person that is visually impaired. The aid is practically absent in that situation. So these are all conversations that we needed to do to build staff capacity, but also teamwork, staff morale, understanding the programs, working together. So for that, I instituted a capacity building session. I'm a trainer. I've gone through all of this. So we did internal training, and I can tell you, I have a very high staff morale. But of course, I still have challenges. I took over an institution where all of the regional offices were closed. I don't have a governance board system. Luckily, my board members are ready. We are having the first board meeting in 2 years on the 24th of July. You can imagine. I needed to have authority for some of the things I would do for my governance structure. This was not there.
I think it's better now.
Exactly. No, well, I have the board.
Your predecessor didn't even have stationaries.
So for me, I changed that because I think we needed to look at solutions other than problems. Okay. And when I said we wanted to make the institution an institution of choice, yes, we got that. For example, 65% of my staff do not have computers or laptops. You go to my office now, I can guarantee you that every staff has an access to a laptop. This has improved staff efficiency. Understanding our programs. My staff members, some did not know anything. Now we have staff in 1 year. We have 3 staffs that are not trainers. In fact, they just came back from a joint program implemented by UN Women and others. They're not trainers because we've built their capacity. What about internal control systems? We lacked that. So we set up a system. We separated the process between requests, approval, and receiver. These are key challenges. We needed to build this structure so that we have donor confidence. What about our partnership, strategic partnership? This has improved overwhelmingly. We have improved our relationship with UNDP, UN Women, UNFPA, Site Savers, One Family. And as I speak to you, we are jointly implementing a program with UN Women, jointly implementing a program with One Family people on community-based rehabilitation. We are jointly implementing a program with Site Savers on the African Disability Protocol and the Marrakesh Treaty. So a lot of work is happening. And the Commission has significantly improved its relationship with the Ministry of Social Welfare. We know there are challenges, but we have institutional support from some of these institutions. The biggest challenge, and I keep saying this, we say thanks to government for the subvention. But first, the subvention is small, and it comes very late. And I think that's very cool, because for administrative purposes, some donors don't support this. It should come from government. Donors can give you funding for activities, but they don't give you some administrative costs. So we've shifted the needle, but the challenges are still massive.
I think advocacy is perhaps the biggest, problem here. So for example, this guy, this visually impaired, he's there, still without a job. Albinos, for example, they go to offices, apply for jobs, they get turned down. Disabled who are, to access free healthcare, for example, not everyone even know that these people should access the free of cost. The issues are many. Discrimination is another one. Most of them are being discriminated. Hardly would you find, disabled employees in top parastatals in this country. Why?
So, again, like I said, going right around the country, I had the opportunity of meetings.
That should be a priority, advocating for disabled to get jobs.
So I went right around the country, and some of the information we gathered is that some service providers don't even know the law. They don't even know that people with disability are supposed to benefit from it. But even when they know, I spoke about attitude and barriers. You have some people that still hold this issue of the charity model. They don't see humanity in people with disability. They only see the disability.
I think they are pitying them.
Exactly. And in one community, a pregnant woman sitting on a wheelchair had a conversation with me and said, I've decided not to go to the hospital. And I said, why? And she said, I went to the hospital, and the first question I was asked by a service provider is, you know, if you will take care of yourself, you don't will get better. So the question is, are they not human beings? So attitude is one. So if you followed the National Commission for Persons with Disability for the past 2 months, we've increased our public education process. We're looking at the provisions in Part 5 that talks about the rights and privileges, and we are breaking this down into flyers, into voice notes. These are going out because sometimes you don't give what you don't know, what you don't have. So we are taking the responsibility and escalating, and I can tell you we've increased. If you follow our Facebook page, you know, 3 days ago, my communications person was just saying, boss, I was looking at the Facebook page and she said, in just 1 year, we got about 526% increase in traffic that is happening around our Facebook page. This is good, but it doesn't end there. What about our websites? I took over a website that had nothing. And I can tell you we're finalizing with the Minister of Communication. Maybe in the next 2 weeks, we are launching a state-of-the-art website. Because I wanted it to be interactive, to also be inclusive. So it's true. I'll give you, there are challenges. Recently, a person with disability applied for a job in one of the commissions. This is a person with whose speech and hearing impaired.
Okay.
And the person approached the commission, said, I have applied. I'll be going for an interview, but I don't know how this will happen. The commission approached the institution, and they agreed for us to send a sign language interpreter for the person. He went, he did very well in the interview. We are still following up, we don't know what's happening. You know, last year I wrote a poem called Society and Us. And part of the poem says, you invite us for jobs, you see us for the very first time, you don't see our capacity, you see our disability, and that is the last time that you talk to us. And that's the problem. So it's about society still thinking that people with disability cannot deliver. But that's not just it. There's what we call reasonable accommodation and accessibility. Most of our public buildings are not accessible to people with disability. So heads of institutions don't know what to do. And we've been speaking to them. There's what is called reasonable accommodation. Reasonable accommodation is not about breaking down the building. It's about you making provision for the person with disability to perform. There are computers that now have programs that visually impaired can use. In fact, there's a pen called the Iris pen that most people don't know about. The Iris pen can actually read for you page by page on a printed note of what you have. But reasonable accommodation is also about you shifting your mindset. That if all the offices are upstairs, but we're recruiting somebody with disability, what do? You set up the office for the person downstairs, give the person all the responsibilities. But COVID has also helped us to be able to deliver at home. People can also work from home and deliver effectively. So these are the critical issues that I think are the problem. Accessibility. You know, in fact, the commission just released a flyer very recently about the rains. There's even more danger with people with disability during the rains. But there's even more danger when public transport owners leave people with disability on the streets, unattended. Sometimes they have the money to pay, but they think they delay them. These are practical issues. They are major. So we are escalating the issue on education. We are escalating the issue on awareness. But we have a challenge. And we are escalating the issue on the review of the Person with Disability Law. The 2011 Act, we have it, but the penalties there are not very clear because we do not have a regulation. So we're now working on the review of the Persons with Disability Law 2011. I've had the opportunity of attending a full sub-cabinet meeting to look at the provisions. We are working with the Office of the Attorney General. I think it's still very slow. We need to fast-track that. But some of the things that I've now been pushing is that no sooner we have that, first, I want a law that has some amount of accountability, people are held accountable. But we also want regulations that are very clear about what you can do as a commission to hold people accountable.
And this is exactly where I'll take you to. There are numerous challenges affecting the lives of people living with disabilities. Nomenclature, for example, as mundane as it may sound or trivial to other people, to persons living with disabilities, for some of them, it's a big deal. People living with albinism don't want to be called albinos. People living with disabilities don't want to be called disabled. Where, according to the plan you've put, where are you starting in addressing this? Because there are the laws, following up with the implementation and strengthening the laws further. But there are also laws that are already in existence, and there are some of these social issues. Where do you begin to get the 8.6 something million people of Sierra Leone to understand that even nomenclature itself is a big deal?
So what we've done in the commission is first escalate our work on public education and awareness. That's one. But what we've also done with UNICEF is that we have reviewed the curriculum for social workers. You know, we produce a lot of social workers from universities, and these ones work in communities. They lead communities, they engage communities. So we've just done a training for almost all of the heads of the institutions around disability etiquette, communications, and the core modules. But like I said, we've increased our work around awareness raising. And you know, interestingly, things are falling into place. With UN Women, we are implementing a project called the Intersection Project. And the Intersection Project is actually about gender-based violence. But on the face of it, if you ask a man or a woman who suffers from gender-based violence, you're quick to say woman. But from intersectionality, it's very different. Because intersectionality now talks about the different stages, the layered level of vulnerability. A woman with disability, a woman with disability without education, a woman with disability without access to service, a woman with disability in a community. So first, being a woman, there's already vulnerability. A woman with disability, there's already vulnerability. A woman with disability without education, vulnerability. A woman with education living in a community where there are no services, vulnerability. A woman with disability in a community where stigma is rife. So, but you also look at a man. A woman with disability who has an electronic wheelchair, educated, is doing her own business, compared to a man with disability in a community that does not have a wheelchair, that does not even have an assistive device, that's discriminated. If you put the two on the scale, the man faces more gender-based violence than the woman. So this conversation are happening. So we're working with UN Women and a lot of other critical players like domestic workers, key populations, persons with disability. And we're just coming from the communities where Moyamba, Falaba, hard to reach areas, and Kailau. Engaging service providers, persons with disability first, building the capacity of people with disability to understand what are the rights and privileges, but also what are their obligations. But also working with service providers to also understand what these provisions are. But also building the capacity of persons with disability in what we call people-centered advocacy. The Commission cannot be everywhere. And if we want advocacy to actually be effective, we say anything for us without us is not for us.
And speaking of advocacy being effective, because not long ago we had a conversation with a person living with albinism and a mother raising a child living with albinism. Yeah. And much of the submissions are also very in tune with what you're saying. Again, I'm still on the nomenclature aspect. We live in a society where it's not just a Sierra Leonean thing. I think it's a human thing. People always find short forms. Even with names, for example, you would hear the full name of one person, but there's always a short form. People always like short forms. For convenience, if, you know, going to a short form, what do you think would be more appropriate? To say a person living with albinism takes a lot of words than to just say an albino, or as they say locally in Creole, juice. What do you think would be a sort of good compromise? Because again, the reality of human life is people like shortcuts, even with names. They would rather call Mohamed Medu or Med instead of just fully calling the name. So generally, it's a common thing. But what would you think would be the best compromise? What would sit well? A person with disability, a person living with albinism is a longer sentence.
So, you know, communications is really very key. And, you know, in one of the trainings, what we actually did was to ask every member that was a participant to write one negative name about how we refer to people with disability. And they wrote it, everybody, on a piece of paper. And we said, that's going to be your name for the rest of the workshop. How do you feel? and you saw the somber mood in the hall. You know, while shortcuts are really very good and they're fast, but I think we need to take efforts to ensure that people's dignity are maintained, even when we talk about shortcuts. So if the shortcuts leads to stigmatization and discrimination, don't use it. Why not call people by their names if you know their names?
Even with the normal names, they cut them short.
So that's what I'm saying. Why don't you call people by their names if you know their names? It's very straightforward. So even people without disability, we've seen people without disability being called names and they reject. In my community, there was a man that was called a teacher. He didn't like it. He was a teacher, but he didn't like it. And he said, don't call me a teacher. You know, so we got those arguments. And one day he also started calling people by names that they would not like, and it changed. So I agree. But you know, first, let us establish these situations. People with disability do not like the state and the condition in which they find themselves. They are already traumatized by seeing themselves as people with disability and seeing others without disability. So they ask a lot of questions. They are already traumatized and stigmatized by not being able to secure a job. They are already traumatized and stigmatized. Women with disability face what we call night husbands. Men creep up at night, have sexual intercourse with them, and disappear during the daytime. But also in settings, I grew up as a person with disability, and I know what's happened to my mother. At some point in time, she refused taking me to public places because, like you said, they will say, Mama Marioga is disabled. So there was transferred stigmatization to my mother. And it happens to caregivers. That is why during the Family Day celebration, we at the Commission celebrated caregivers, because these are a missing link of people who do not only face problems or challenges in taking care of children, but have also taken a lot of responsibility. Look, I met a caregiver who has learned sign language just because the son is a speech and hearing impaired. She goes to school and sits in chemistry classes. She's an art student. So as she comes back home and teach the son. This is what caregivers face on a regular basis. So we are shining the light on them. But I go back to the nomenclature. First, we say if somebody agrees to the name, it's fine. Because even when we have the standard ways of calling people, some people can agree to the name, as long as it doesn't hurt them. But if it is the longer version that restores people's dignity, let us use it. First, let us see that humanity. Don't call them that Bekidenki. Why are we saying this? We are all a second away from being a person with disability. And you provoking somebody out of health, accidents, or their illnesses. We've seen people that have been very strong doing everything and suddenly become people with disability right across the sphere. So we normally use the war philosophy. It is during the time of peace that you prepare for war. It is now that you're not a person with disability that you be empathetic and understand that people with disability, they are part of us. We need a holistic support. And for jobs, it sends the picture. I met somebody who I've met several years back. Very good civil society activist, security person, understands everything. Doing very well. A year ago, I met the person, and the person had a stroke. The person used to work on the second floor of the institution. The institution, without nobody telling him anything, moved the office of that individual to the down floor. These are the practical things that we could do and why we need to employ people with disabilities. Because you only need to shift your mindset. You only need to agree that at some point in time, all of us can be in the States. And for transport owners, we say, see our humanity, don't see our disability. So yes, like I said, we have taken all of this milestone in 1 year, but they say the reward for hard work is more work. And I think now we really need to focus more importantly on the real substantives that benefit people with disability. Of course, the Commission has been doing it around healthcare, providing healthcare, wheelchairs, fees for people in schools. This is happening, But I think it's still happening at a level that is really, really very small.
Commissioner, we're rounding off the program now, but in the last minute or so that we have, in the strongest of ways you can communicate it, what would you want, at least that one or two things that the viewers should take away from this conversation, especially that you're using it for public education?
So first, I want them to know that the National Commission for Persons with Disability, although it's a government outfit, is still open to work with everybody because we're an expert institution to help them build their inclusion capacity. Christian Aid has just requested the Commission to train their entire staff and partners in understanding disability inclusion. So for MDAs, INGOs, civil society, see us as partners. But for the community people, Sierra Leoneans, see the humanity of people with disability and not their disability. And for MDAs, last year the president said this year should be a year of delivery. But I think some of the MDAs are very slow. We want them to garner up. The Minister of Finance, please, come up. We need to deliver. And for work around people with disability, let us consider it as an emergency. We don't need to wait. They are already in a state that is very deplorable. Until we take it as an emergency, enough resources, we pull our heads together, work together, see as if we are saving lives. We will not be shifting the needle from them. So come work with us at the Commission.
All right. Thank you very much for your time with us this morning, Commissioner.
All this would end today's edition of the show, Wake Up Sierra Leone. We want to say thank you very much indeed to our sponsor, Vocal Commercial Bank, for their support to the program, and to you, our audiences across the globe, for staying glued to the program. My name is Victor Jones.
And I am Phoebian Sweel. Thank you for tuning in. Have a lovely day and stay tuned to AYV Television and Radio throughout the day for more programs. Take care. Bye for now.